Hey guys, welcome back to Warhammer Anonymous. Today we have one of our update videos for you. We're here at the Geekery. We are going to talk about the team, the last couple of events that have been going on. That's why we haven't done one of these. It's been back to back to back to back recently. Some future events that are going on, and then the list that we've been playing, how they've been going, the results of those, and then just how the team is doing overall in the greater scheme of Warhammer, I guess. So ITC and Lord Marshall. Lord Marshall being the Midwest's competitive bracket system conference, and then the ITC being kind of the general one everybody's in. So we'll go over that right now. We've had a couple of big events going on. The last 3 weeks?
Correct.
3 weeks time frame. We've had two GTs. Summer Slaughter, first time that one's gone on in Kansas City. And then the Perils of the Geekery, same thing, first time that event's gone on in Kansas City. Both of these are brand new events to the KC Cup series, which will be a group of events throughout the Kansas City area, and then everybody's points will go into it for a top prize, a number one, a number two, all those kinds of things. There'll be a best painted, best showman, best every prize that's at a normal GT, but for a series of, did they say how many?
It is 6 events.
6 events. So 2 of them have been completed. Do we know when the last one happened?
The last one will be Show Me Showdown in July of 2023.
In July of 2023. So 2 of them real quick, and then 4 of them spread out over the next year, more or less. Those events, we did have a lot of people go to. Summer Slaughter, we had about 6 or 7 teammates at. Perils of the Geekery, I think we were at
8, maybe?
8 people, 8 lunch. Yeah, 8 people were at the Perils of the Geekery event. Great events. Summer Slaughter was a 32-man, 6-round event. The 6th round was very odd. Nobody can disagree, but it was 6 rounds. And then Perils of the Geekery was a 30-man event, and we did a standard 5-round tournament for that one. Summer Slaughter was player place terrain, so was Perils. It seems like that's going to kind of be the standard going forward. It seems to bring a lot of flexibility and a lot less prep to the event organizers, which, if you've ever set up an event, is a really big pain in the butt, trying to set up a packet, all of that stuff. So player place is a nice way, as long as you have access to some pretty consistent terrain, to really fix a lot of the issues with the missions. That way you're not setting up custom maps per table per mission. Everybody can kind of play. It also is a little bit balanced. You suddenly aren't at a board where you ran out of good terrain, you've got nothing but crates or craters, it's an open shooting gallery, and one person just gets completely tabled because they got the Imperial Guard all-mech matchup or something like that.
And going into it, I was a little skeptical about player place.
Oh, that's right. You were a little skeptical.
I was a little skeptical, and I am a complete convert. It completely avoids I have a bad deployment zone. It avoids this is a hammer and anvil mission,
and
but the terrain was set up for Dawn of War.
That's what got me. That's a big thing on me.
So if you're like I used to be and skeptical of it, and you don't think this is like the right way to play 40k, I'd say just try it. I feel like player placed is the next innovation, just like chess clocks.
Yeah,
we had this skepticism about chess clocks. They solved a lot of problems,
and nobody complains about them anymore.
They're now standard.
Like,
I think player placed is the next thing that we should just all adopt, and it will fix a lot of balance issues and a lot of negative gameplay experiences.
Yeah, I think it does that as well. The biggest thing that I always complained about was the tournament setup is set up to where they pick all those missions, cool, and they set up the boards, and everybody wants to play long or short ways, and the board will be set up to look really good for Hammer and Anvil. And suddenly you play like corner deployments, and you're like, I don't have a single big ruin in my deployment zone. I guess I'll deploy versus your 3 hammerheads right here in the center of the table. Hope I go first. And it really fixes that problem. So if you're playing player placed and you got mad because you got shot at or you couldn't do something that your army was meant to do, that was your fault. That's the other part. It brings a little bit more of the skill to the table about how you want to plan out an entire game. You're not just rolling the dice and hoping and praying.
Right.
So,
and it gives you another tactical decision.
Yep.
And this is a tactical game, and it's fun to make tactical decisions.
Gotta love them. So we'll move on to the big stuff, which was Summer Slaughter. As I said, we had about 6-7 people at that event, 6-round event. Our team in the top 10 at the end of 6 rounds was Mr. John. That's why he's here in this table. He won first place. Jeremy, playing his Space Wolves, got 4th. Me, I was playing my Tyranids. I got 5th. And Dylan was playing his Death Guard list with Abaddon, I believe.
Correct.
With Abaddon and Baby Knights. And he got 9th. It was a really strong showing. We were roughly 50% of the top 10, like 40% of the top 10. And we were roughly
20%
and 20% of the field. So everybody placed pretty well. Fantastic event. Had a lot of fun. As the winner, explain how things happen for you at Summer Slaughter.
Sure. So, really quick, should I go over my list first?
Yeah, let's go over this. What did you bring?
So I brought the Tyranids. We've got 3 packages I like to get my list. We've got the support parts, the 2 Neuranthropes, the Tyranid Prime, the Zonethropes, the Biovores, to hand out the Leviathan Invuln every turn, to hand out some buffs, to cast the Psychic Powers, and to launch some Spore Mines that can have a lot of utility and move blocking, mortal wounds when we need them. And then we've got the 2 other parts of the list. We have the 3 blobs of 27 Tyranid Warriors. In Leviathan, they've got an Invuln, they've got high toughness, they've got transhuman, they hit like a truck, they can do some shooting, they do a lot of melee.
Strength good, shooting good, heavy weapon good, movement good.
Obsec good.
Obsec, I hate them so much.
I said this in our last video. I think the Tyranid Warrior is the best data sheet for the points in the game, and so I brought 27 of them.
And I stand by and confirm still best data sheet in the game. They do everything.
So we got the support piece, we got the Tyranid Warrior brick that's coming at you, and then we have the Tervagon and Termagant block. The Tervagon is upgraded. She's got the Heightened Senses Warlord trait. She's got the Maw Claws of Thyrax relic. What this does for her, she gets to reroll all her hits, she gets to reroll all her wounds, she's got really high attack profile, her Scything Talons give her a sweep or a strike, so she's good into lots of targets. Every time she kills something, she gets another attack. And more importantly, those 30 Termagants mean she cannot be shot.
Yeah.
And 30 Termagants with Baby Transhuman, and if you want to give them the 5 of Invuln and Catalyst for 5 Feel No Pain, means you need to commit a lot to get rid of those Termagants. And if you only kill 29 of them, she's bringing back 2d6. There's a strat to bring back d3 plus 3, and the Termagants just show up again.
And 30 Obsec bodies who take up this much space, when you can advance them, and then the other part is the Tervagon, when you use the imperative, that's the biggest thing about Nids. There's always kind of the question of which imperatives do you use. Turn 1 is always the odd one. Because you're like, I don't want a warrior imperative because I'm not really going to be in melee. I don't want to pop my defensive bubble yet because I'm probably not out in the open. I'm still playing tactically. Then you're not going to pop the Neuranthrope one because you don't really need the casts because you're not set up for Warp Ritual or you're not trying to Psychic Interrogate your opponent. Your Neuranthrope's already 3d6 plus 1 in the backfield. She doesn't really need the help. She's casting powers on a 5 or 6 anyways. So turn 1 always feels dead. But you bring the Tervagon, and she just gives you the 2 inches of movement. Yeah. And for a lot of the units, it's a 30% increase in movement.
You go from 6 on those Termagants to 8.
Plus the advance roll.
Plus an advance, which means frequently they're on the other side of the board on turn 1.
In the middle of the table, 30 bodies, Obsec, on an objective 9 out of 10 times.
And when I'm thinking about my army, I'm thinking I'm gonna ask my opponent a question. Would you like to bring out enough of your offense to kill a block of warriors? Would you like to bring out enough of your offense to reliably kill 30 Termagants? If you say yes to either of those things, the other 2 squads of warriors are just going to slaughter you.
Yeah, and they kind of deal with anything they touch.
Yeah. High number of attacks, strength 8, AP minus 2, 2 damage. That's a pretty good profile into a lot of things.
300 point investment?
300 point investments.
Yeah.
And then they can take a punch back because they've got the Invuln. You can feel no pain them. You can reduce damage
by 1.
Which
is
that's
the big one.
That's a big one.
Every time you do the math, you're like, all right, I'm going to do this, 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 and there's something like, DR1 that unit. Okay, so
Every time someone hits them with a flat 3 damage weapon that they think is like, this is the perfect profile
that's
of
the
a
one,
warrior.
man. That's the one.
It's like, how about we make that 2, and it's going to take 2 hits to kill one of those warriors instead of 1.
And if that unit has Catalyst,
and then it's
suddenly it's not always
maybe
2.
it's 3, and I've reduced your efficiency by 2/3, and then the warriors are still alive next turn, and they're probably in your face.
Yeah. The biggest thing of John's list, as you've probably figured out as he's talked about it, there's no Hive Tyrant, no Reaper of Obliterax. The Hive Tyrant is great. He used the Swiss Army tool, deal with everything that every Tyranid list feels like they need. But all the data slate changes really pigeonhole him. You've got to play really conservative with this unit. So he's not 220 points. He's suddenly like 350, 360 because you need the Tyrant Guard. He's suddenly 1 or 2 CP every single turn so that you can keep him alive. You really got to pick and choose where he goes, because if you undercommit or don't make a charge, he's stuck out of the middle of the table and suddenly they kill him. The Hive Tyrant is not crazy durable. They can get killed. They're huge. The wingspan is a massive. So as soon as they touch terrain, they get shot.
Right.
So if they're not with the Hive Guard, you lose all of your imperatives. And the imperatives for turns 2 and 3 are the meat and potatoes of Tyranids. If you don't have those, you are missing all of your tools. So his Warlord is one of the Neurothropes in the backfield, which anybody who's played Tyranids, I don't know how many games you've ever killed the Neurothropes who's in the deployment zone.
In my 11 games across these 2 GTs in the last 3 weeks, she took literally 0 attacks at her.
I think I've taken 2 damage because I had to move her up to the middle of the table to Warp Ritual 1 game. Like, that's how safe that model is. T5 transhuman.
3 up invuln.
3 up invuln, 6 wounds.
Character protected.
Yeah, like, she doesn't die. So when that's your Warlord, you get all of your imperatives every single turn. Like, that's the stuff. My biggest thing that I always talk about for the Warriors right now, and this is my gripe on them.
Yep.
They are the Swiss Army box. Like, they do everything. And the one thing that I say about Tyranids and why I think Tyranids feel pretty balanced throughout the book. There's a lot of internal balance. You've got to pick and choose the stuff. But this is why I think Tyranid Warriors are better than, like, bringing in Kraken. Raveners are really, really good. They've got a lot of wounds. They're a little bit more expensive than Warriors, but they're the same thing. They're kind of a Swiss Army box. The difference that I have with Raveners versus Warriors and versus every other army in the game is there's not another army where your OBSEC troop choice is what I'm scared of. I'm not scared that your OBSEC troop choice is going to fight me in the midfield and that's what's going to hold my objectives. And the Leviathan Warrior list, that's what happens. You're still like, oh man, I'm going to fight these big bricks. They do damage. Oh wait, how many bodies do I need on that objective to actually outnumber you? 6, 7? Oh, on my turn, I guess I'll score 0 primary.
It's the big synergy. My damage dealers get to move forward, and as they're moving forward, they're also scoring me reliable primary.
And they're your infantry for every of the mission objectives, for spore nodes. Like, it gives you so much more options than most armies have tools for.
Right. So when that warrior brick, when you've killed 7 of them and I've got 2 of them left.
2 of them still OBSEC and
all
Fearless.
All of a sudden, they're OBSEC Fearless, and they'll go plant a spore node. They'll go raise a banner over there. They'll go
drop a bomb.
They'll go outnumber your tank that's holding the side objective.
Yeah.
They just got so much utility.
They're really strong. So if you've seen some of the other coverage, John's been in a couple of Goonhammer articles. Some other channels have started to cover the lists. I think it's something that not a lot of people have done. People have been winning with Tyranid lists of all shapes and flavors. But I can say consistent top-end tables, John's probably our best player at it. I have played him at those top tables in those events, and I have lost every one of them. The worst part is, table John in almost every one of those games, but I score no primary. It's the OBSEC. That's the problem. My list is meant to kill and outkill my opponent, and it typically works most games. As you can see, I was 5th in this event. But when you're suddenly fighting with the OBSEC fight, I just can't do it.
That's right, because your Carnifexes come up, and heavy venom cannons do a good job of killing Tyranid warriors. Yep. Massive scything talons, flat 3 damage, good strength, high AP. They do a good job of killing Tyranid warriors. The only problem is if you don't kill all 9 of them on that objective,
You don't get the objective.
no primary points.
Yeah, it's great. And then I will say the one big thing about the Midwest and our group of events is we've been noticing that throughout the country, everybody posts their GT wins like stuff. Tyranids haven't been placing in the top player of these events a lot, but Tyranids still have a really good win rate, so the army is still extremely strong. Anybody who plays against them knows the army still feels really strong. The one thing that our lists here have that we kind of came up with that nobody else has, and it's been winning events, is the 30-man Termagant break with Terry. I still think that's the super secret tech in that book that nobody else really talks about because A, you got to paint up 30 Termagants. And then B, you got to play with Terry, and nobody's really willing to risk that. And once you play with her, she is the truth. She can kill almost anything in the game. She's very durable. You give her that 4-up invuln. You plan out that turn right. She is just as scary as the big the big Hive Tyrant.
Oh, yes.
But nobody's thinking about her. And she's multi-purpose. You just walk her up 11, Psychic Ritual in the middle of the board.
She Warp Ritual's great.
All game.
She's got her Termagant babies around her. Anybody gets too close, you punch her to death.
Yeah. She fights first, built in, so she's very hard to try to counterplay. Not only do you have fight first, you can interrupt with her. She is a character. You can spend 2 CP to fight on death. She typically does not get dealt with easily. And in the game right now where you need to be dealing wounds in every phase, the other part is she actually has a chance of one-shotting Abaddon on the charge.
She can smite. She does have some shooting attack.
Yep.
Her back spines do some shooting. She can take advantage of the mortal wounds on the charge strat that Tyranids have.
Yep.
And then dealing 3 damage in melee is
not terribly difficult with a 16 attack model almost.
Sometimes. 10. She starts at 10 on the
12 on average because you're going to spend the 1 CP on her.
Fair enough, because she can get the extra D3 attacks.
Extra D3 attacks.
Yeah.
That's typically how you play with her. You're like, oh, well, she's not going to be, all right, take 14 wounds. Well, you're gonna drop saves. That's just how it's going to work. You're going to drop some saves.
It throws enough dice, and it's you'll fail them.
And the big thing for me on her is, even looking at the Demon book that's come out, or looking at Abaddon, all these other models with sweep attacks, they're always converted down to damage 1. She's damage 2 on the sweep.
Yep.
So there's almost no profile that you don't want her going into.
Yeah. It's you got some intercessors over there. We'll just sweep those away. The damage 2 in a lot of situations is just better than the 2d3 just because you get twice as many of them.
She picks up knights. Especially armigers. Armigers are the way people are playing these knight lists. She will pick up every armiger that she sees. Just get out of here. It's crazy how good that model is.
Yeah.
I converted him.
Yeah. Kyle invented this package, and I definitely co-opted it once I saw that this is something that works.
Yeah, and then the Termagants are frustrating. You'd be surprised in the middle of a game, after somebody's killed 16, 17 Termagants, and you bring them back, just the level of defeat that is in the eyes.
Right. You work really hard. You kill 20 Termagants. You're feeling pretty good about it. And I'll bring back Terry will rebirth 8. We'll do the strat. We'll rebirth another 5.
On an objective.
And then you can do the Necron thing where you can move them forward some.
Really fun.
Yeah.
Also really fun to play. So anybody who's out there not doing it, give it a try. It is a whole lot of fun. So that does go over his list. So it's a pretty in detail look at what he's been doing, having a lot of success. We'll go over the next event, which was Perils of the Geekery. That was here. That was our first big GT with the new renovated space, the new terrain, everything like that. Super awesome. The terrain was consistent. The boards looked beautiful. Everybody seemed to have a really good time. One of the other big teams came down rolling 6s. They had six guys with them. They had a blast. Took them out to dinner, stuff like that. What a great event. We, yet again, had a lot of our guys there. We were about 20% of the field, but same thing. We made up 3 of the top 10 slots. John won that event as well. He played me in the last table, embodied me again. So it's been pretty consistent. Jeremy, which is really funny, played a slight tweak on his Space Wolves list, but still generally the same Space Wolves list. Got 4th again. He's like our little soldier who can just almost get there. He's so close to getting on the top table almost every event, and then is just stopping shy.
The Marines are...
But he's for anybody who's thinking Marines are really out of it, if you pilot the hell out of them and really dedicate, Jeremy is a Marine player. That's what he wants to play, no matter what we talk to him about. And he's showing event after event, GT after GT. You can top 10 with Marines, and you can do it.
Well, I think one of the things that gets overlooked in 40K a lot is repetitions with your list matters a lot more than just what is the list.
Yeah. I know I can get these CP, these VP, doing these things game after game after game. And if you know all of those variables, you can get your points, you can outscore an opponent, you can win the game.
Yep. And you know, like, hey, on this mission, I want to take these secondaries. I need to put my Cyber Wolves over here. I need to make sure the Redemptors are here.
Yeah.
And you get the reps in, and you get used to what the list can do, how it works.
What it doesn't do against. Sometimes that's the big thing. When you know what your weakness is and you can learn how to play a game where you're like, I might not win that game all the time, but I can get 30% of them. I can get my points here. I can stop them from getting points there. So that's a big thing. Know where you can get it, how many reps you can get in with an army. Not always flavor of the week hopping. Like, not everybody also has that ability, but sometimes if you don't have the ability and you don't want to, you can still do it. And then I got 6th place by losing the last round. Still a great event. Super happy about the placement. Was a ton of fun.
Absolutely. Great events. Both of these GTs are probably going to change their calendar for the next time around. So they probably won't be 2 weeks apart at the end of summer. But they're both excellent events. And if you want to come to Kansas City, they're good ones to get on your calendar, and I'm sure the TOs there will get those dates for 2023 out there.
Yeah, and then if you're part of the Lord Marshal and you just missed them, look for them next year. They're going to keep growing. Hopefully, we can get both those events up into the 60-man, add another round to them, another round to them, and get some more points in there. It'd be great, a lot of fun. So now we'll talk about some events that are coming up in the next couple of weeks. And then one coming up in about a month. Flying Monkey Con is one of the big events. Is in Wichita?
It's in Wichita.
Wichita, Kansas. It is a 100+ man event. It's looking...
I think it's 120 sold out
120
right now.
sold out? Mm-hmm. Okay. I was doing the count and lost the scroll. So
yes. It's about 120. 100 plus.
It's going to be the 24th, 2-day event, and it's going to be a 6-round event. We've got 9 people going to Monkey based on some good showings, some people performing really, really well. That could catapult us in the Lord Marshal and an ITC point. So we're really looking forward to that one. It's one of the bigger events for a while.
Absolutely.
So, and it's always been really fun to go down to Wichita and hang out with those guys. They put on a good show. It's been, how many years has Monkey been going on?
Oh, I feel like a long time.
Forever.
I don't even know the answer to that.
Yeah, I said it's...
Before I started playing competitively.
Yeah, it's been at least 4 or 5 years. So Monkey's been around. And then after Monkey, at the end of October, is the big one everybody's really waiting for. That's the KC Open. Kansas City Open is going to be in downtown Kansas City at the Sheridan. That is the Games Workshop event. It'll be Games Workshop terrain.
Games Workshop sponsor.
Games Workshop sponsor. Games Workshop people. Big event.
Yeah. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be eight games. There's going to be the most I've ever played. So there's going to be a grind. And
yeah, the big thing that I always tell people who've never been to an event like that, 3 days of play is a ton of Warhammer. That last day, like that separates the men from the boys of play for Warhammer 40K. Because, man, when you've been on your feet for 12 hours a day for the first 2 days and you wake up that last day to go play, especially if you're in like a losing bracket, like just go play. And it's really hard to motivate yourself, even though you know you're like, I'm not going to top 10 or something like that. Like, it's a big event. It's set to be 256 players is the max sellout.
That's the number of tickets.
If it's anything like New Orleans when we went and stuff like that, 256 is a really impressive number, but I would not be surprised at 150 plus. Like,
yeah, that seems
super easy.
Very achievable.
So we will probably try to get almost the whole team to that one, since none of us have to stay in hotels, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's driving distance for all of us. Realistically, how often is a GW Open going to come to your city? Maybe once every 5 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, and that'd be like a best case scenario.
That'd be a best case scenario.
So,
you have to live in something big too. Kansas City, New Orleans, Atlanta, Dallas,
yeah,
stuff
one
like
of
that.
the NFL cities.
Yeah.
So
we're really excited about that one.
special invitation if you are making the trip to Kansas City and you want to hang out that Thursday night before the event on Friday. Reach out to the Geekery, reach out to one of us. We'd be happy to hang out and talk 40K, get to know you guys better.
Yeah, maybe get a couple of pickup games in right before the event. Be a lot of fun. It's a great place, so definitely come stop by. Got 2 other things we want to cover. One is the easy stuff. Just looking at the team's placements for the year so far, we've been doing really good. In the Lord Marshal, we are in 4th currently. Second to 4th place is currently a 15-point gap. So just a couple of good placements. We can be 2nd place overnight, 3rd, or even somebody's right behind us in 5th, we could drop down. So Lord Marshal's looking super competitive. Mm-hmm. 1st place is looking real solid.
The Frozen North.
Frozen North. Those guys are killing it. They're 70 points ahead right now.
Yeah, they had a very strong showing at Show Me Showdown in July. I think they took 1st and 3rd or something like that.
A lot of the top 10.
The top 10.
They had a lot of guys show up and do really, really well. So that's our chase. If we keep doing good for the rest of the year, we might be able to come up there. But right now, that's kind of everybody in the chase. And then for ITC overall, we're in 44th, which is actually really impressive. For being a small club, 44th out of 400-plus teams in the ITC is pretty good. So we've been really happy with the amount of people who have been doing really good in our team and showing up to events and really, really putting in the hours. Then we've got one really quick thing that we want to cover. As a lot of people have known, pre-orders for
the Leagues of Votann.
Have come up. We've kind of gotten a test of what the army is going to look like. Mm-hmm. The codex got spoiled on the internet, which everybody is kind of mad about, but that kind of seems to be pretty consistent with these big box deliveries. Somehow they get in the wild. Someone somewhere puts them on the internet. We kind of get a test of what the army's going to do. After seeing what's been out, you excited for Leagues?
So, no. I get some people like the aesthetic. Awesome. It's not for me. The army's kind of slow. Also not for me.
It is different to play an army that's slow.
That's not my thing. So I'm not personally excited about the squads.
They're not Xeno enough.
They're not. They're a little too Imperium adjacent for me. The thing I'm worried about with this army, they've got this judgment token mechanic where
they got a lot of mechanics.
Yes.
That's something I've been noticing with them is it's like, oh, this is what Marines do. This is what Sisters do. And they're both very similar. And then suddenly Sisters have everything that Marines do.
But a little better.
Doctrines. Oh, but we're going to give them miracle dice on top of that. And then Leagues, to me, is just that next step. Like, oh, we're going to give them Armor of Contempt. We're going to give them a Doctrine system. We're going to give them this. Oh, you also just can't reroll wounds versus them.
Yep. So they've got a lot of rules.
Just a little sprinkle on top.
A lot of rules. They get these judgment tokens where they seem like they're fairly easy to apply to units.
Seem pretty. Just saying that unit gets a thing
seems
pretty easy.
And when you have 3 judgment tokens on a unit and you shoot at the unit on a 4+ to hits, it automatically wounds. And over the last few years...
Oh, wait. It doesn't just automatically wound.
It automatically wounds.
Automatically wounds as a 6 to wound.
Which then have other rules.
Which compiles on top of everything else.
One of my philosophies in 40K, the game is based on getting through these gates. You have to roll to hit. You have to roll to wound. You have to get through an armor save. So every time you start with a pool of dice, and each gate, the pool of dice shrinks. Every time we've seen mechanics that negate one of these gates. So miracle dice that you don't have to roll, you just get your results. Hail of Doom, luck dice for the Harlequins. Every time you have one of these mechanics that removes one of these gates, it ends up being a problem. And these judgment tokens are just another way of removing one of the gates. It's just no wound roll.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I actually really don't like about the army as well, because like you said, it's when you don't have to go through all the phases of the game that require your opponent to play with you, because that's how you're always doing your math. Oh, well, if I can take away this many dice on his first roll, if I can transhuman get to this many dice on the second roll, you can kind of math out where you're going. When you can ignore all those other steps, there's not a lot you can interact with. Suddenly you're like, oh, you have 30 shots. Well, that's the number. We're just looking for sixes on 30 dice. That or in the case of 3 judgment tokens, we're looking for fours on 30 dice. You don't get to play with that. You're like, oh, well, I can ignore some hit rolls, and that's the about it part that you get to do. Suddenly you go straight to the last phase and you're making saves. And with some of their weapons, the Volkites, stuff like that, we are stopping on the hit roll. Hits, morals at the end. We're skipping everything in middle. It seems like this is their counter to Transhuman. Transhuman came out, they started adding it to stuff, and that was their way of being like, this is how we make something durable. And now they don't like that Transhuman is a little bit too common, or you don't have to earn it. So now they're going to, well, we can just ignore the part where you got to wound the models.
My Tyranid Warriors are not looking forward to not getting their Transhuman.
Yeah, it's really weird to just skip all of that. To me, that might be the most overpowered part of the leagues, let alone that it seems like their points are a little pushed aggressively. If you take like a Razorback and put it next to their vehicle, or a Ridge Runner from Genestealer Colts, just to pick a weak army, and you put them point to point next to each other, these armies look bananas different.
Yeah.
It's crazy how aggressively pointed this army is. The other part is all of their weapons just feel strong. None of them feel like they have an abundance to like 20 Dark Lances in an army. I don't think that's something you're going to see. But they will have enough access to everything in the middle that they're always going to be wounding you on a decent roll. They're always going to be making you take a save on an invul.
It kind of seems like they have, at every facet of the game, they're a little bit above average.
Yeah.
A little bit above average offense. A little bit above average defense.
A little too cheap.
A little bit under... Right.
Their one weakness seems to be the movement, but the Codex also seems to have a whole lot of ways to get around the movement problem. We've talked to a couple people, and they think that's going to be the problem, but you look at the Bikers, they still move 12 and are OBSEC.
The hope I have is that the movements is enough that it keeps them toned in. Because they don't get a random advance. It's always 3 inches.
You know exactly how far this army is going to go.
On turn 1, an 8-inch move does not get you on your third objective in every mission. It doesn't get you on your second objective in every mission. So, Theory Hammer, it's conceivable that the leagues will start off on the back foot on some of these missions.
If they're tabling people by turn 3, though, this is going to be the problem. If you're picking up your entire opponent's army because you can, you're going to get your points at some point. And I've kind of been theory crafting a list because we're hoping that we might have 1 or 2 guys who really try to pick up the army and play it. I have a mechanized version that we really want to try, which seems to solve all the problems that the book tried to create for you. Where if you can get the whole army moving 12 inches on turn 1,
well, then you're above average offense, above average defense, and above average movements.
So if I can sit my whole army, which is leagues, in-ish the mid-board, and it still does melee, and it shoots, and it's durable, and it's OBSEC, you can kind of mitigate a lot of the problems the book is trying to bring your way. So I think Leagues is going to be real quick out of the gate. A lot of people, as soon as they get them put together and painted, we're going to see them everywhere.
Yeah,
people want their squats, man. They've been dreaming of it for
30 years.
So people want them on the table. So yeah, I think they're going to come out of the gate. People are really going to want to play them. They're going to get those armies painted. They're going to get them airbrushed really, really quick. And I think there will be a problem for a little bit. I do think they will be around. People are going to get them on the table. They're definitely going to screw up the meta. They will probably get a nice, solid, chapter-approved adjustment. Probably nothing data slate-wise. I think their rules seem fine. The only thing that I have a theory of is much like Tau, they made Tau work in such a way that they had to fundamentally change the rules of the game and completely remove sections of the Codex to make Tau a balanced faction. and that feels eerily close to how I think squats is going to turn out, where suddenly judgment tokens will work this way right up for about 3 months, and then judgment tokens may work completely different going forward. So those are kind of my theories on it, because some of the stuff is so ripe for abuse that there's almost no way of fixing it except for just deleting entire sections of rules.
The optimistic part of me, though, GW seems a lot more receptive to when they see that there's a rules problem. They are relatively quick to fix it.
Yeah, I think we've 90 days of squats as intended, working as intended,
selling as intended,
selling exactly as intended, selling as intended. But then we might see some big changes to that army. But I'm super excited for him. It's always nice to have new, fresh stuff on the table. It is an army that definitely plays completely different than anything else, so it'll definitely have an impact on the meta. That's my take on it.
Yep. It's good to keep the game fresh.
Excellent. Well, thank y'all very much for joining us for another one.